Hi, everybody. Just want to quickly thank Bruce Hartman for the opportunity to be part of this exhibition here. Thank the fellow artists involved with it. It's just been fun to see the show come together. I was here in February, installed my piece, and not many of the other works were up then. So it was a real treat to come back and see everything together. Also thanks to Whitney and Hema and Art and just the rest of the group here who made everything so easy. And also to Alice Thorson for her thoughtful writing. And also want to thank my mom and dad for letting me crash while I'm staying here. So, all right. They even let me have my own bedroom. So, all right. So this is my piece. It's entitled 8.25 Minutes. And it's from 2017. This is the second place it's existed. The first was in an exhibition at the Knoxville Museum of Art in 2017, okay? So I'm gonna quickly fly through a little bit of where I've been and sort of bring you, hopefully tie some things together where this work came from. And so I'm gonna also fly through some images as well. This is perhaps the stupidest painting I've ever made, okay? But I think you will all be familiar. Oh, it's not showing up. I was going to pull the cursor on top of it. It is. Oh, there's that little guy. All right. So we're familiar with that. I'll just leave him up there for a while. Oh, no, he's just off the page. Sorry. So we're familiar with that. That's our way of moving around that digital space and saying, will you be my friend? Ooh, I really like that photo you took. These are the shoes that I'd really like to buy. I need to put that on my wish list. I need some more information about that. If I just keep searching, I'm gonna find some more. So we're always reaching out there, and now we even do it on these things, on our tablets, all that. So we're always like looking for something, sort of longing for something. And much of my work, as I think back about it, has been about that sort of attempt to tie or sort of find these things that we're looking for or wanting. And I've thought about this in terms of what do we do as humans? We make things, we mark things, we design things. You're sitting in a chair that somebody designed. You might walk out through downtown Kansas City and find some graffiti. That's somebody's way of saying, I was here, I existed, I did something. And so we're surrounded by those things, and they all have intention to them. Some of my work pulls from a variety of things. It tends towards abstraction, but there's times where I'll find something that's in a photographic form, or something that's even more sort of like a symbol, like a sort of moon and a mountain juxtaposed against each other. So not photographic, but more something you find on a cave wall or something like that. The sense of touch is really important for me, that something has a haptic sense to it, that you can feel the sort of crumbliness of it or something like that. I saw Stalker earlier this year, and my phone went off in the very last minute of the movie. Not a proud moment for me, but against that sense of like touch and sort of handling of something that it's existed in the world is important. This is a group of paintings that I hung together at a show in 2013, and it gives you a little bit of sense of what might be going on in my studio and how those things might come together. So in the past, there's not always been a sort of one single way of making a painting, but maybe there are lots of questions that I'm putting out there and not knowing the answers for them, but just sort of trying to find out what's going on, trying to work through my feelings, my thoughts, in that world around me. I was really lucky in 2013 to spend some time in Marfa, Texas at a place called the Janati Foundation. It was founded by the sculptor Donald Judd. I had a residency there for 2 months, and during those 2 months, I went around, I photographed the town. I saw amazing sort of like cobbled together architecture like this, but I might walk the next street over and see like, some architect from New York or LA who had designed a magnificent home as well. So there's just like a whole lots of things I was encountering there. But I was also really taken with the light that I was seeing there. Like, I thought I could see the colors more truly, but also I would be blinded by the light as well. So this is a painting that I made while I was there, and I was thinking about something like viewing like the sort of warmth of a hearth, a fire, but what does that feel like, or what does it look like if you were watching it on the cold blue of a television screen? So it's just sort of putting these sort of propositions out there and sort of following them through to see what they would reveal. But again, every day it was just really affected by the amount of light I was experiencing there, and how you would stare at something at midday and it would just sort of burn itself into your eyes, whether it was looking at a fence post or the side of a brick building or whatever it might be. You'd look away and you'd still continue to see that. While I was there, I also started investigating this image. And I think we can all understand the pull of these images of nature that we encounter. This one had personal meaning for me because it had been the stock photo that was on my parents' photo album when I was a child. We can understand that sentiment of like, here's a family of birds. It's the same way that we see, we might have a photograph of a sunset on a refrigerator or maybe on our desktop. Or maybe a floral pattern on our walls. We want to, even when we're inside, when we're away from nature, we want to be tied back to it. So I started taking this image, not really knowing what I was going to do with it, and started sort of taking it apart and reassembling it. Here's me sort of drawing in the studio using inkjet for the color and a Xerox machine for the black and white. But I continued to make these drawings, sort of cutting and pasting and reassembling them. And then I started working on these paintings. They're about 11 inches by 8 inches, about the sort of size of a head or mask of the face. And I wanted to keep pulling that sense of the light that I was experiencing in West Texas while I had been at the Janati Foundation, and allow that, and again, they're almost like tablet size too. But allow the paintings to have the sort of DNA of that original image of those gulls, those birds, but also exist like an after image, as if we've stared too long at the light. And so I made quite a few of these small ones, sort of sitting in the back room of my studio over the fall of 2013. I was working on them all at the same time. But I thought of them as all coming from the same place, but then seeing this really dramatic, sort of diverse outcomes from them. Here you can see a sort of wall of them hung together, all coming from that one single source. Also sort of boosted up that image and started making some larger versions of it. I thought it would make like one painting based off of that image, but it just like kept sort of giving more and more images. And so this is the last one of that I'll show. And I just want to bring us back to this for a second. I think most of us have had an experience of sitting around a campfire, or maybe you've got a fire pit near your house or something like that. But there's that sort of moment where maybe you're there with others, maybe somebody's telling a story, or maybe you're there by yourself and you just sort of get lost and sort of stare in the fire, that sort of flickering light. And so that idea of the sort of things that glow, that emanate light, was really sort of weighing on me and sort of affecting how I was thinking about color as an artist. We look at the moon, we look at our tablets, we look at our phones, those things that emanate light. They hold us captive, okay? Here's an image of a flower that I used in some additional paintings, sort of alien-looking passion flower. There's those gulls again. And I'd made all these tiny paintings, and I felt like I needed to change the scope of the work. And so I started working on this painting, which is 8 feet by 20 feet. You can see on one side the gull image is sort of tilted over and actually is sort of laying on its side. And on the other side is that image of the passion flower, which is, you think of a flower as sort of a compact thing, but it's also sort of exploding outward there. So I think I wanted to tie into almost this sort of sublime feeling, sort of using these natural things, using that, what I sort of approximate as the glow of a digital screen, but also sort of something that begins to wrap its arms or sort of be bigger than the viewer. So it's like the only way to view it is to be 30 feet back from it, or to be in it and really sort of scanning it as you walk past it, viewing it in motion. Another image with those birds, it's like they really become sort of like decompressed and begin to float away. The sort of image becomes unmoored. And so, like a memory we're trying to hold on to, like Christina talked about, there's these moments where like the memory also feels like it's sort of drifting away or you can't quite hold on to it. Asking again questions of myself, what's it like to be watching the dying embers of a fire, but watching it on my computer screen? Or is it like flying over Los Angeles at 30,000 feet? There's a sort of commonality there. So some of those things are things floating around in my studio and how I've been thinking about my work. That brings me here to 8.25 minutes, which is the time it takes light to travel from the sun to the earth. When I started thinking, I didn't know that title when I started working on it, but it's what I arrived at. In my studio, I had lots of different things I was looking at. I had found this book about Pompeii and was really intrigued by these domestic spaces that were just filled with images, paintings on the walls, mosaics, and then also that they're preserved because that town, that city was destroyed. So our benefit, do we get to see these things because they're buried as they were, but also the sort of destruction tied to that as well. And often so many of these interior spaces had images of nature in them. Again, that's something that we keep coming back to. Another thing that I was thinking about would be something like Philip Johnson's Glass House. What a magnificent piece of architecture. To be in there and to look out and sort of have the world just at that arm's length, always sort of there. But then as I thought about it, it's like, would I really want to live there? Aside from jokes about throwing stones and where you might use the bathroom, would you really, it's nice to be there, but would you really want to live there? And so there was both a sort of joy at that place, but also like, I don't know. I like the theory. I'm not sure if I could handle it. Other things of floating around my studio, thinking of water lines, whether it's something like this, which is more sort of geographic striations of where the water has been, or something like a scenario where you see the homes after Katrina, where you have the level of the water slowly going down in them. Or even something like the inkjet print from your computer where you're running out of ink, sort of coming out of it. So these are some of the feelings, the sources, the sort of wellstones that I was looking at as I was beginning to craft these paintings for the installation. Maybe showing you too much behind the scenes. This is one of the source photographs that I was using. I was in a museum in Miami, taking a break from looking at the art. I looked out the window towards the garden, so there's all this lush foliage and bamboo and things like that. But there's also my reflection and these reflections of the walls and the fluorescent lights of the space that I'm in. And it's all sandwiched right there on that skin of that window. And again, it felt like this sort of space of the screen that we might touch and interact with. Show you just a few more of these. Have you seen them there? So even the color, wanting it to be like maybe that inkjet print, that luminosity of a screen, and it's in these sort of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black sort of colors. Just one or two little more things here. There, you might have noticed that there's these bits of paper on the back, and there's just these things that are floating around the studio as well. Emily Dickinson, on the little like scraps of paper she would compose on and sort of work out her poems, she referred to those as her gorgeous nothings. And I think of these little things on the back of the paintings as sort of my gorgeous nothings. That they, it's like they contain everything in them, and but they're also sort of mysteries at the same time. If they weren't on the back of that painting, I'd hope that maybe if you saw them on a tabletop or on the floor, you might have to pick them up and sort of care for them or take care of them. So this is that installed last year. What I'm bringing this to a close here. And what I'll do is, there's a poem that I've been really obsessed with over the last couple years. And so you'll have to excuse my voice, but listen to the words, okay? It's from Osip Mandelstam, a poet who lived and worked in Russia. And it's called, "And I Was Alive." And I was alive in the blizzard of the blossoming pear. Myself I stood in the storm of the bird cherry tree, and all was leaf life and star shower, unerring and self-shattering power, and it was all aimed at me. What is this dire delight, flowering, fleeing, always earth? What is being, what is truth? Blossoms rupture and rapture the air, all hover and hammer, time intensified and time intolerable, sweetness raveling rot, it is now, it is not. So thank you very much, and thank you for letting me share that poem with you.